What's going on, guys? So I was out and about. I was working on the 55 and I was looking for a slip yoke for the Turbo 400. So the one that came in the transmission was out of a truck. So this one actually was a short one. It actually bolts in, so it's a fixed yoke for like a 2-piece drive shaft. And of course I need a slip yoke, so I actually found one on the internet and I went down and looked at it, and it should work out just fine for me. While I was there, the guy also had a carburetor, exact same one I have on the car, but it has all the choke mechanism, which mine was all machined off. And he actually also had this Performer RPM intake manifold. So I bought those two, and I figured I'd take a break from the 55 and you know, change the intake manifold in here. And then I was actually halfway through. I got the carburetor off this already, but I thought I'd just kind of make a little video of how to do it. So that's what we'll do today. So pretty simple. I mean, I have the carburetor off. It's 4 bolts. I took the linkage off, and that was it. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'll drain some coolant out. So I got to take these hoses off. I don't want coolant all over the place. And I'll show you guys how to mark the distributor, pull it out, and yeah, kind of be like an easy little video here. Okay, so I'm in the midst of taking the distributor off. So I got the cap off, everything's unplugged. Now one thing I want to make sure you do is you want to make sure you remember what way the rotor's facing. So in this case, you can't really know, so I'm going to rotate the bump the motor over until the rotor's facing at the firewall, and I can mark the firewall. And that way I put all that together, my timing will be close-ish. So we'll see if I can do this. So let's kind of see where the rotor is there, and I'll just bump it with the key. So there we go. So now you can see it's kind of facing the firewall. So now let's get in there with a Sharpie or something like that. Put a little mark right there where it's facing. Then it all comes apart. Put it back together, and the timing will be close. Okay, so I got a little tie down off where the distributor would be. So as you come up, you'll see how the rotor is actually going to kind of swing around. That's because it has to mesh into the cam gear there. So you just got to remember that when you take it out, you're going to have to kind of put it in so the rotor's facing that way, and as you push it down, it'll kind of work its way back in, just like that. So that's out. A couple of wires caught. So I can come out, go off to the side. So now, all that's really left, I think I might pull a valve cover on this just so the intake when it comes out, but everything that goes to the intake. So water neck, alternator bracket, this one heater hose. The linkage is just kind of free flowing there. It's pretty simple. Then there's a bunch of just 3/8 kind of bolts the whole way around. And then it'll come off, clean it up, and put the other one back in. Alright, so you can kind of basically see how everything is off. These are all the bolts to hold it down. There are a couple of tricky ones here which are a pain in the ass. I actually had to use header bolts, so they're 3/8 bolt with I think like a 3/8 or 7/16 head. And yeah, I'll probably just pull these valve covers off real quick just while I'm at it, and this whole unit will come off nice and easy. Okay, I got one valve cover off. So I'm hoping I can kind of sneak this sucker out. So all the bolts are out. These ones were a nightmare. They had to get wrenched out. Everything's out of the way. You just kind of drag its vacuum for the transmission and stuff like that. You just kind of pop out. I'm hoping. So there we have it. Pull off these gaskets, clean the silicone stuff off the front and back, and time to go back together. I figured I'd just kind of show you guys this. So this is the manifold I want to put on, and the reason I want to do is it's a dual plane manifold. So these ones typically are better kind of for lower RPM. You know, I think this one makes power from 1500 to 6500 or something like that. The one that came off was this Holley Street Dominator, which is a fine manifold, but it's a single plane manifold, and those typically make less torque, more high-end horsepower in higher RPM, which on the street I'm not really using. So it was a fine manifold for what it was, but this one came up, so I thought for the cost of a set of intake gaskets, I take it apart and switch it over. All right. So I ended up cleaning the heads. Nice, nice clean. I want everything nice and clean there before you're gonna put together. The kit comes with the intake gaskets, obviously, which they're marked this side up, so you put it on there, and basically it's just kind of line up all the holes. Pretty simple there. It also comes with this little rubber piece that goes in the front and back. I typically don't use these. I like just kind of putting a bead of silicone across the front and back, so I'll do that, silicone that, put those gaskets on, and then you plunk the intake on, and that's it. So here you go, it's back on. This one had some custom work done to it. The guy had cut the manifold there for whatever reason, so I just put a couple washers on. Should be fine. I left the exhaust crossovers open. I mean, that's, people go back and forth, I block them off for more power, but again, I like to drive this thing, so it gets cold here in Winnipeg, so in the mornings it heats up, drives a little nicer. So I mean, that's pretty much that. All I gotta do now, plunk the distributor in, valve cover back on, carburetor, and block that hole, plumb that one for the heater hose, thermostat, and fingers crossed it works. So same thing, I'll just put this stuff back together and we'll get to it. Okay, so I got it kind of mostly back together there. Just put the distributor in. This little gasket here, it's pretty important. If you don't put that on, it will leak. So the next thing you got to do, you want to make sure the vacuum advance is kind of about where you want it there. So that's that. I'll just put you down here. This will work out. Now I have my little mark. It's right here. So you want to have, once the distributor goes in, for it to be kind of pointing at that. So I'm starting with the rotor a little far out from where I want it, but it should rotate in. I might have missed it there. And sometimes you gotta, oh, that worked out just actually perfect. That never happens. So the distributor is all the way down, and you can see the rotor is pointing right at the mark, so I'm gonna be pretty darn close. I'll just have to, adjust my advance a little, but that's about where it was, so I can clamp it down, and this thing should at least fire up. Alright guys, so I had it all back together. I actually just ran it, I set the timing and stuff like that, so yeah, it seemed to run pretty good. Got a little mess around to do with the carburetor yet, but overall, I mean, that's it. Everything's back together. The lines are in, topped up the coolant. That was pretty simple. When you're doing the timing, obviously timing light to the battery, to your number one, remove the vacuum advance and set it. So that's pretty much it. I think I'm gonna leave it here for today. I'm able to back this thing out, do a little cleaning garage, and get back to the 55 later. We'll see. So make sure if you like the video, hit the thumbs up and tell your buddies and subscribe to the channel. Let me know what you think. Thanks guys.